Good evening. I'm Jacob Hornberger, president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, and this is my weekly internet show. Nice to be with you all this Saturday, July 22nd. And I thought I'd talk to you tonight about, what it is that causes people to remain, committed to the welfare warfare state way of life. I mean, this question has befuddled me for many years, probably since I became a libertarian. I mean, I cannot figure out why it is that Americans remain so loyal and pay so much allegiance to this way of life. It has proven to be such a massive failure, so dysfunctional, so immoral. And the consequences are just horrendous. I mean, wherever you look, the consequences are bad, both on the domestic side and on the foreign policy side. And yet, here we have, two presidential candidates that are as committed to the welfare warfare state as you'd ever find. They love it, they embrace it, they adore it, they believe in it. I mean, really, when you get down to brass tacks, there's really not any difference philosophically between Mitt Romney and Barack Obama. And they both believe in the welfare state way of life. Okay, sure, they may have differences on, hey, I want you to adopt my reform. No, adopt my reform. And, oh, well, maybe we ought to go this reform or that reform. It's all minor tinkering. Because philosophically, they believe in the same thing. They believe in this system, the welfare state and the warfare state. And in that welfare state is the regulated economy, the controlled economy, the centrally planned economy. And that's the way it is with most Americans. And I just can't figure it out. And so I thought, well, I'll devote my show to exploring that problem. Maybe if people have some ideas, they can email them to me, because darn sure I don't know what the answer is. I mean, it's just weird that people stay so committed to this way of life, and I don't think anyone can deny that this thing's been a massive failure. I mean, the revolution that Franklin Roosevelt wrought on the United States in terms of economics, and then later came the military empire policing the world, intervening around the world, monitoring things around the world, controlling things around the world. It's just been a total disaster. I mean, look at Social Security. Okay, here is your crown jewel of the welfare state, right? I mean, you couldn't find a better model of the socialist idea in the United States. You've got a system where government seizes the money that belongs to one group of people, the young and the productive, and gives it to the older group of people, the people that want to retire. So it's just a massive transfer program. It's a massive confiscatory program in which the IRS, the Social Security Administration, seizes people's income, and then uses the Social Security Administration to transfer the wealth to another group of people. So this is the crown jewel of the welfare state. And yet, look at it. I mean, it's just totally busted. There is no fund. There never has been a fund. People convince themselves there's a fund. Oh my gosh, I know I put my money in. I got a right to take it back because I know it's in that fund. I know it's there. And it's all self-delusion. I mean, this is a catastrophic failure. If you look at it in terms of a retirement program, it's a total failure, because a genuine retirement program is the way our ancestors had it. They didn't believe in income taxations and Social Security and Social Security taxes, and they didn't believe in this whole concept that government should be taking care of people, including people's retirement, so that they would set aside a portion of their savings each year to take care of their senior years. Well, from that perspective, it's a total disaster, Social Security, because they don't save the money. The public officials do. They don't take your money and then put it into an investment account or into a stock or something like that, where like you would do, and if you were saving some of your money, you'd be investing it. They don't do that. As soon as the IRS takes your money from you for Social Security taxes, they spend it. And they don't necessarily spend it just on Social Security recipients. They spend it on whatever they want. Their wars in Iraq and Afghanistan and, Yemen and Bahrain and wherever else they want to go to war. Syria, or, their drug war. I mean, they give part of that money to dictatorships, like the Egyptian dictatorship or the dictatorship in Bahrain. So that money's gone. So there's no retirement account. Now, so that's one way that people have deluded themselves in this thing. And then the other thing is they say, well, it's a charity program. It's a charity program. Well, it's an absolute disaster because it's all based on force. And the number of people from whom they're taking, who they say, well, we're forcing young people to be charitable to their parents and their grandparents. That pool is getting smaller, while the number of people that are retiring is getting larger, and their demands, the retiring group, their demands are never going down. So they're demanding more money, their numbers are rising, and of course there's an ever increasing tax burden on the young. So and everybody's cynical about it. I mean, everybody knows that it's just a straight confiscatory tax program. There's in no sense is there any charity involved here. I mean, this is all based on force. If you don't pay your taxes, you go to jail. So the whole program's just busted, and the best evidence of that is how these politicians are always coming up with reform plans. Well, speaking of reform plans, look at Medicare. I mean, where would you find a bigger disaster here in this welfare state? I mean, everybody concedes that the healthcare system is a disaster. Well, I mean, this is Medicare, this is Medicaid, this is occupational licensure, licensure for healthcare providers, especially doctors, which is just really a protection racket to keep them from having competition. The best essay on that is Milton Friedman. He's got a great essay, on occupational licensure, medical licensure. We've reprinted it on our website at fff.org. Just go there and Google in, medical licensure Friedman, and it'll pop up. And then you got massive regulations, and they told us that when they adopted Medicare and Medicaid, this was going to be a beautiful system, a wonderful system. And yet it's a catastrophe. I mean, all we hear about is how we need to now mandate people to buy insurance. Can you imagine? In a land that purports to be free, people are forced to buy something that they may not want to buy? I mean, that's incredible. Absolutely incredible. But it goes to show you the disaster that this government intervention, Medicare, Medicaid, licensure, regulation, what a disaster it is. I mean, even the proponents have to concede it's a disaster, otherwise they wouldn't be calling for reforms. And of course, ultimately they want a total government takeover. They never can concede that their system's a failure. The drug war, I mean, that's even a bigger disaster than Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security. I mean, look, 60,000 dead people in Mexico just in the last 6 years. That's drug war related. I mean, if there hadn't been a drug war, those 60,000 people would still be alive. I mean, it's incredible. And did you see in the paper over the weekend that the government, the U.S. government, is now moving into Africa to fight the drug war? The paper said, well, with the drawdowns in Afghanistan and in Iraq, they need something to do. And so they're looking, they've already gone to Central America where they've killed a few people as part of the drug war. And then they're now going into Africa. I mean, this is inane. I mean, they've been fighting this thing, for 40 years, 30 years, whatever, it's decades. And everyone concedes that it's accomplished nothing. I mean, people are still taking drugs. People are still being supplied drugs. But, there's people that are dependent on it. Judges are dependent. There's federal judges that have wasted their lives, and federal prosecutors dealing with this war on drugs. I mean, totally wasted their lives. It has served no purpose at all. They've sent all these people up to jail for 20, 30, 40 years, and for what? The judges have wasted their lives. They've destroyed lives. Prosecutors have done the same thing. Cops have done the same thing. It's total idiocy, and it's a failure. It's a failure from their perspective. Now, okay, you can say, well, Jacob, really it's about power and money. All right, yeah, it's a success in that sense. They got asset forfeiture laws, they got corruption, they got bribes taking place among judges and prosecutors, law enforcement agents. That those drugs don't just come over here magically. There's payoffs all the way along the line. And but everybody agrees that it's a failure. I mean, everybody's got to agree. You've got public schooling, massive failure, right? I mean, you know, whenever you suggest, well, let's have a free market in education where parents and families decide this on their own, the statists always say, I don't know, can't trust the parents. They're not competent enough. And of course, the question is, why not? Aren't all those parents graduates of public schools? Well, you know, if generations of public schooling continue to produce generations of people that are incompetent to handle the educational decisions of their children, why do we keep repeating this pattern? And of course, there's people like President Obama. He's trying not to repeat the pattern. You know, here's a guy that says, man, we got to strengthen our public school system. It's the backbone of America and all this. Well, he doesn't even send his kids into the system. I mean, I don't blame him, you know, but I mean, don't you think somebody in the mainstream press would say, Mr. President, excuse me, stop a second. Are you saying that public schooling is good? And if so, why aren't you subjecting your children to it? Well, I mean, that says it all, right? I mean, that just pretty much says it all. Monetary policy, I mean, you know, let's not just look at the last few weeks or months or whatever. Let's look at this thing over decades. You've got a debased dollar, depreciation, inflation. It's gone on for decades, ever since the central bank, the Federal Reserve, was established. I mean, remember, that was when they nationalized gold. That had been the official money of the United States for more than 100 years. That had been the money established by the Constitution. And all they've done is debase it. I mean, you know, there's a reason why there's not silver coins in circulation, because they've just flooded the money to pay for all their little welfare and warfare over the decades. You know, they borrow and borrow and borrow, and then they can't repay the debt, so they just print the money. They inflate the currency. And then look at the foreign policy. Total failure. I mean, you know, they keep saying, oh, Iraq's a paradise now. Iraq's a beautiful, harmonious paradise. People are free. It's wonderful. Really? Well, then why is it not one single federal official, not one, and not one American family, not one, has gone to Iraq on summer vacation during the past 10, 11 years? I mean, if it's a paradise, wouldn't you think just one family would go on vacation? Just one? And the same applies to Afghanistan. I mean, not one single federal official, not one single American citizen has taken his family on vacation to Afghanistan in 11 years. I mean, you know, the reality is death and destruction and corruption and brutality and dictatorship and all the other horrors that come with these foreign invasions and occupations and interventions and assassinations and killings and denial of due process, incarceration indefinitely. I mean, these are just horrific societies, and that's why Americans are not going on vacation there. Or you look at Iran, you know, the big bad relationship with Iran. It's just a direct result of U.S. interventionism in 1953. I mean, it still lingers to this day. You know, where the CIA goes in and says we're going to have a regime change operation. They did it secretly, and they oust the democratically elected president. They destroyed Iran's democracy. I mean, that was really what the U.S. government did in 1953 in order to install a dictator. I mean, that's incredible. A nation that has prided itself on principles of freedom and democracy destroyed democracy in Iran in order to install a dictator. And that dictator was a brutal guy. I mean, you want to talk about torture and indefinite incarceration. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, that was why the Iranians revolted in 1979, and to this day, the bad relationships exist because the U.S. wants to put in another pro-U.S. dictator. It's just a total failure, a total, absolute failure. 9/11 attack, direct result of U.S. interventionism abroad. The sanctions against Iraq. I mean, and all the stationing of troops near Mecca and Medina and the Islamic Holy Lands, the terrorist attacks on the USS Cole, on the U.S. embassies in East Africa. I mean, just on and on. Failure, failure, failure. And then you've got all of the powers of dictatorship that they've now assumed here in the United States, the dictatorial powers to grab American citizens off the streets with their use of the military and the CIA, cart them away to military concentration camps, dungeons, torture them, even execute them after some sort of kangaroo military tribunal. I mean, just massive failure all the way around. Foreign aid to dictatorships. I mean, they continue putting money into the pockets of the military generals in Egypt. Incredible. Here's your money. You're a military dictatorship, but here's your money because we believe in you. We embrace you. We partner with you. You'll torture on our behalf. I mean, it's incredible. And they still keep doing it. They're doing it now, trying to intervene in Syria, aiding the rebels instead of just leaving people alone. Massive failure. They brag about, oh, well, we ousted Gaddafi. Yeah, look at the result. In Mali, that is a direct result of the intervention in Libya, because all of the fighters there grabbed Gaddafi's weapons as the government was going down, went over into Mali, and all these Islamic extremists have now imposed a fierce, vicious Islamic state there as part of a revolution. I mean, here you've got the adverse consequences of U.S. interventionism, the failure, right off the bat. You don't have to wait a few years. So what is it in the face of all this failure that causes people to hang on? Well, okay, this is my reasoning. One is that there's just a group of Americans, there's some Americans who are just statists. They just believe in this junk. They believe in the welfare state. They believe in socialism. They believe in interventionism. They believe in empire. They just believe in it deep within their hearts. They say, well, we don't care how much of a failure it is. We want this as our way of life. And if failure comes with it, so be it. If it makes everybody poor, okay, fine. If the government goes bust, okay, fine. We hope it doesn't happen to that. We're going to propose reforms and reforms and more reforms, but we believe in statism. And we're going to keep the welfare state no matter what it does to America. We're going to keep the welfare state. I mean, they're committed statists. I mean, and you're never, I'm convinced you're never going to convert these people to libertarianism. It's just impossible. I mean, you think you could sit down in a room and talk to Hillary Clinton or Barack Obama or Mitt Romney about becoming a libertarian? It would never happen. I mean, these people are antagonistic toward libertarianism because they are statists. They are statists to the core. And I don't know whether they were born that way. I don't know whether it was inculcated in them in public schools or whatever, but man, you ain't going to change them. Okay? Now, you've got a large group of people that they're sort of like confused. I mean, they believe in the statist system, but they're not committed statists. They're not like the Barack Obamas or the Mitt Romneys or the Hillary Clintons or the Bill Clintons. They believe in Social Security. They believe in Medicare and the drug war, but it's like, and they believe in all this foreign interventionism, but they don't really understand why. And I'm convinced that what their problem is that because they were born in this kind of system, they think that this is, the American way of life. This is freedom. And the reason they believe this is in large part because their parents told them this, because their parents themselves had been inculcated with this notion. And then I think this is where the role of public schooling comes in. This is why the Barack Obamas of the world love public schooling. is because it ensures that most of the people, and I throw in government licensed private schools too, because if they don't teach the right thing in these private schools, they lose their license. And they always have to think about that. So the education may be better, but it's going to still follow an official line. And now, what I found about private schools is they're more open to considering diverse ideas. They don't feel threatened with alternative ideas like libertarianism. But by and large, they're still teaching the same principle that America is a free country. Stand up and pledge allegiance because America is a free country. We're not like the other countries, like Cuba or North Korea or China. America's a free country. So people are brought up with this notion from the first grade on up, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, all the way through high school, America's freedom. And they hear all this stuff about thank the troops for defending our freedoms, and they don't think, because in public schools, they don't teach you how to think. You're not doing any critical analysis here. That's the last thing you do. I mean, public schooling, in a sense, is like the Army. I mean, it's a government institution, right? I mean, you couldn't find a better example of a socialist central planning enterprise than public schooling, except maybe the Army. I mean, it's just, the top-down command and control system. The state controls everything. And by and large, the objective is to produce the good little citizen. Okay, the good little citizen that believes that the welfare state and the warfare state are free enterprise, are a free system. Because if you can inculcate that notion all the way up through graduation from high school, then the chances are they're going to get the same thing in college, because there's a lot of status in college too. And then you've got them. You see, you've got all these years. By the time they hit their 20s, they encounter something like libertarianism, and they're just befuddled. Libertarians are saying we're striving for a free society, and people are listening to that and saying, "What are you talking about? Are you crazy? We live in a free society. I've heard it from the first grade on up. I've been to the ball games where we're thanking the troops for defending our freedom. What are you libertarians talking about? We are free." And I think that's the crux of the problem. I really think that most people that believe in this junk believe it's freedom. And that's why they get really uncomfortable with libertarians, you see, because if you ask them, do you believe in free enterprise? They'll say, yeah, of course, America's a free enterprise system. I believe in free enterprise. And you say, well, do you believe in limited government? Well, yeah. Hello, we have a constitution. Of course I believe in limited government. Well, then when you look at programs like Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, these giant transfer programs, which are really an embodiment of the socialist principle of from each according to ability to each according to need, and you say, well, how do you reconcile this with your principles of free enterprise and self-responsibility and stuff that these people say they favor? They're shocked. They don't know how to do that. Or the drug war. You ask them, well, if you believe in freedom and free enterprise, how come you're putting people in jail for consuming drugs or selling drugs? Isn't that part of free enterprise? Isn't that part of freedom of choice? And they're befuddled. They'll walk away from you because you're confronting them with a disconnect. And you see, or you look at the empire. When you say, well, look, you favor limited government, the U.S. has troops all over the world. In 100 and something countries, 1,000 military bases, invasions, occupations. They're assassinating people on practically a daily basis, bombing people, a total, violence-oriented system. And they'll look at you and say, oh, well, yeah, this is limited government. This is all constitutional. And a lot of people don't want to hear anything, that violates what they think, what they've been taught is a free society. In fact, I think Johann Goethe, the great German thinker, really sums up the plight of the American people. He said, none are more hopelessly enslaved than those who falsely believe they are free. I think that is the crux of America's problems, is that Americans have been inculcated with the notion that they're free. They've been born and raised under a welfare warfare state. They don't know anything different. So where does that leave us as libertarians? Well, after many years of doing this type of thing and trying to achieve a libertarian society, I'm convinced that our job is not to convert people to libertarianism. In that first group, the statist group, you'll never convert them. Okay? Now, it's important to bash what they're doing and show the fallacies and failures of what they're doing, but, I don't think we should have any hope that Hillary Clinton's going to say, my gosh, I see the light, I've become a libertarian. But I think our job is finding libertarians, finding people that say, oh, yeah, I see. Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, aid to dictatorships, farm subsidies, the drug war, the military empire. That isn't freedom. Oh, that's why you libertarians are saying you want a free society because you want to get rid of this stuff. Well, yeah, exactly. Because that stuff is not freedom. That's the socialist concept of freedom. Because in Cuba and North Korea and China, they have Social Security, they have Medicare, and they have Medicaid, and they have drug laws, and they have militarism and military-industrial complex and secret intelligence agencies like the CIA. They have all this stuff. And yet we all know that those are not free societies. So what we libertarians have done, we've broken through, which means we've been lied to. Okay, it's that simple. We've been lied to. All that stuff in those public schools from the first grade on up about, well, you live in a free society. Americans are different. Americans are exceptional because we're free. We're free. We're free. It was a lie. And that's what distinguishes libertarians from the rest of society. We have broken through to reality. We've broken through to the truth. And now what we're saying to people is, hey, join up with us. Join up with us because they've lied to you. Help us restore a free society by ditching all these socialist programs and all these imperialist programs. Ditch the income tax. Restore sound money. Have a free market in money where people turn to gold and silver or whatever they want to in the marketplace. But ditch this central bank, the Federal Reserve, the massive debt, the inflation, the paper money, the whole welfare warfare concept. Now, in that process, we're looking to attract those people in the middle, that sort of confused ones, that want freedom and falsely believe they're living in freedom. But we're looking to find, people in that group. And that means planting seeds, sharing ideas. That's why at the Future of Freedom Foundation, we are strong believers in the spread of ideas. That whatever you can do to spread ideas, just put them out in the marketplace because you never know their impact. And we're finding people who are willing to consider a breakthrough where, they may be a statist today, but they're not like a committed ardent statist like Barack Obama and Mitt Romney. They're just sort of like mild statists, confused statists, but statists that are saying, something's not right in this country. And they're trying to figure out what's wrong with this country. Those are the people we have a shot. And all of a sudden they say, oh my gosh, now I see what you libertarians are saying. Now I see why all these young people had broken through and now they're trying to convince their parents that libertarianism is the way. Because the libertarian paradigm, is the genuinely free paradigm. And not only that, it's the paradigm that leads to peace, prosperity, harmony with the people of the world, and a true limited constitutional government, one in which people are interacting with the people of the world. No more sanctions and embargoes and all this threat of violence that comes with the military empire, the interventionist state. Now all of a sudden you're unleashing the American people, the private sector, to interact with the people of the world, trading, touring, traveling, interacting. People love Americans, but they love the private sector, not the public sector. And then you've got people accumulating wealth. Charity becomes voluntary. Charity becomes private. When we say honor thy mother and thy father, all that's done on a private family basis. And then we have charitable groups on the local basis or national basis, because everybody's now keeping everything they earn, and then there's massive accumulation of capital. People start saving again, and because there's no more massive welfare programs, no more massive warfare programs, and then that savings is what causes standards of living to start rising again. So that's what we've got to do, in my opinion. I think we've got to keep spreading the ideas in the hopes that we find people and attract people over into the libertarian side. And then when we reach a critical mass of people that are libertarians, there doesn't have to be a central plan as to how we're going to achieve this. That when that critical mass is reached, and you see it in corporations, the whole philosophy of the country will shift. It's a matter of just building up the numbers of people who believe and embrace libertarianism. That's the key to the future. I mean, there's no other way to achieve a free, peaceful, prosperous, harmonious society. That's the show. Thanks for listening in, and I'll see you next week.